We don't know, of course, who are the VP running mates. We don't know any of that stuff. So let's pull up the slideshow. All right, we all can see the slides. This is where we left off on Thursday last week, talking about political marketing, all of those aspects, credibility. And so let's talk about online political marketing in particular. Let's see. So, like those two ads I showed you from Win the West and Trump's attack ad. So, these are examples of online ads. It's still too soon for us to see like these types of ads on TV. I think we would see an ad, especially Trump's ad like that. We probably wouldn't see that until June or July. So right now, the only place to see these salacious ads is online. Now, of course, as I mentioned with the lawsuit that the campaign is doing in particular against, it's not Ohio, but Wisconsin and a couple other states, it's because those TV stations just agreed to air the ads. But that's rare. Also, really, the whole lawsuit that the campaign is having against radio stations and TV stations is rare. Usually, candidates sue media outlets for lack of access. So they sue TV stations because the TV station refused to air their ad or refused to invite them to air their ad, and not for defamation of character or for the nature of the ad itself. That's rare. And we talk more about that in voters and elections. But anyways, back to online political marketing. So of course, digital marketing techniques have transformed political marketing by focusing on micro-targeting. That just refers to targeting niche audiences and then of course tailoring the appeal to a targeted group or a particular character or a particular person's characteristics or preferences. Notable effects, actually all of the effects, it removes barriers to communication between leaders, media, and the citizens. It facilitates interpersonal connections amongst geographically separate people. It affords candidates more opportunities to market their message. It expands the parameters of political participation, offering more activities to challenge the elites. It transformed formats to include texts, tweets, and live video streaming. It gets rid of all the norms of civility, as passionate, obsceneness, explicit nature, and prejudice messages become more and more common and expected. It reduces dominance of traditional news media. It increases selective political communications. And in these selective communications, users primarily receive messages they agree with, so more selective exposure, if you will. It makes the tweet the centerpiece of online campaigns. And then finally, it provides campaigns with new ways to study, market, and mobilize voters. So online political marketing is the thing to do. And so let us talk about candidate media strategies. So you're running for office. What office are you running for? Could we say the presidency? No, because I have a whole section on the presidency. So you're running for Congress. How are you going to secure your spot? You are actually, I can't even say Jenny Bell because, like, what if she ends up watching my videos and then I get sued and I ain't got money? So you're just Joe Blow, you're running for Congress. How are you going to portray yourself in the media to secure enough of the vote to secure the office? Well, let's talk about it. The number one goal as the candidate is to win the election because 2 is not a winner and 3 no one remembers. You need to maximize your share of the electorate while minimizing your opponent's share. And you do this by taking stances on issues that appeal to voters. Let's see. You also, that's the primary thing. Let's see. Candidate responsiveness to opinion is greater when the electoral margin is close. When issues affect majority, or at least what we consider to be mainstream voters, as opposed to core supporters. So no, the goal is not to mobilize. It depends on which route you take. If you take the Clinton strategy, you want to present issue stances that test well, especially with undecided voters. The Bush strategy is instead to mobilize core supporters. But whichever route you choose, the goal is to secure majority of the electorate. When issues affect, of course, people, regardless of if they support you or not, you're far more likely to secure the election. And if that doesn't work, you are far more likely to win the election when the issues are particularly salient. So hopefully coronavirus stuff gets resolved before November. But if it doesn't, the coronavirus issues, being forced to stay in the house, that will become a huge issue. If the economy doesn't bounce back in time by November, because what is it? We're still at what, 10% unemployment? That's going to be an issue. It seems like, unfortunately, student loans will not be a salient of enough issue to lead to anything this fall. Other issues. Is ISIS still a thing? Are we still afraid of ISIS? We're not worried about ISIS? I'm trying to think of other issues. Oh, environmental issues. That'll matter. Are we still concerned about the environment? Nick says no, we're not worried about the environment. So, with all of that in mind, how are you going to engage with the press? So now, this is how you're going to engage with the media. That's what we first talked about. Let's now talk about how are you going to engage? How are you going to carry yourself during press conferences, during town hall events? What are you going to do? Are you going to host your own coronavirus briefing? How are you going to do it? So, first things first, you should not do anything that calls into question your suitability for office. Don't do that. Second, don't waffle or flip flop on the issues. If on Monday you say that it's black, on Tuesday it still needs to be black. Next Tuesday it needs to be black. Next month it needs to be black. You should not waffle or flip flop on the issues. That's a no-no. Because the first thing that your opponent can do is call you out for flip flopping. Next, you need to make sure that the journalists have low expectations concerning your chances of victory. If we recall the short-lived primary, remember there were a lot of people that were really disappointed that Elizabeth Warren did not perform better. Same thing with Michael Bloomberg. The media had hyped up a lot of people within the general public to believe that these two people were going to, change the game. They were going to perhaps be the ones that secured the nomination, and you see they both dropped. Who else? Yeah. And the reasoning for that is because the candidates themselves hyped up the media to believe that they actually had chances. So don't let the media, don't let journalists believe that you have a chance. Let them believe that, what? If something happens, it's cool. If not, it's not like I had a chance anyway. Let's see. You should also the third bullet point, fourth bullet point, schedule your events strategically to maximize their newsworthiness. From the 2016 campaign primary time, I remember, what was it? It wasn't Fox. I can't remember what station it was, but it was one of the Republican presidential debates. Trump made a huge deal about saying, I'm not going to that debate. Instead, I am going to host a rally. And for his rally that was ultimately televised on Fox News, more people ended up watching the rally than those that actually turned into that debate. So in that case, that was very strategic. So that's why, for those of you that had classes with me last semester, when there were rumors about Tulsi Gabbard boycotting the the debate, and it was like, well, what is she going to do that for? She doesn't have the pull that hell even President Trump did last year. We're a totally different demographic. If you don't show up, no one's going to miss you. Let's see. When you're in the lead, you should restrict journalists' access to yourself. Now, Dr. Mack, why should you do that? Well, because the last thing you want is for journalists to come see how you're doing and they discover some nefarious things that are going on in the background. You don't want to give the journalists and then ultimately the public too much of a view of what happens behind the scenes, especially if there are some questionable things going on. Because if so, that gives the journalists an opportunity to craft a story to say that perhaps you are not as genuine as you portray yourself to be. Let's see. And then you should ultimately cater to the local news people. You remember we talked about local news. Most people watch the local news. Go to the local news to avoid the critical coverage you receive from national news organizations. So, yeah, you'll go on and do the Washington Post or the New York Times or hell, even the Wall Street Journal to secure their endorsement. But you don't need to go on MSNBC. You don't need to go on Fox News, no ABC News, no CNN. You need to go to, gosh, I can't even remember the letters for the local TV. You need to go to Spectrum One. You need to go to our Fox News affiliate, our ABC News affiliate. That's where it is. I know Dana Turtle only talks about the weather, but you need to talk to Dana Turtle and them. That's what you should do. And then, of course, which is my favorite part, you should feed the press titillating but critical information about your opponent. Did you know so and so has not bought toilet paper? I don't know what's going on in their house. Or, in fact, I went to their house and they don't even have any hand soap. Why don't they have any hand soap? Maybe you shouldn't shake hands with them. They probably got the Rona. You don't want that. So, about issue ownership among parties and candidates. So, of course, each party has a set of owned issues, issues that are affiliated or correspond with the party. So, for Democrats, we have not yet. For Democrats, we have unemployment, civil rights, environmental issues. For the Republicans, we have defense, national security, law and order. What are other issues? Pro business type policies. And so these are the issues. And so, of course, party reputations on these issues are transmitted through socialization. As we grow up, barring too many cataclysmic events, we go through life, we socialize. Our political socialization teaches us to affiliate each party with these sets of issues. However, there are issues that can be temporarily leased during the son Bush, so George W. Bush's campaign. Education. What is that? Education. No child left behind. That education primarily became affiliated with Bush, and then as a result, subset of the Republican Party. Meanwhile, for Clinton and his regime, immigration, but more so crime. The 1994 crime bill made it so that crime became temporarily an issue related with the Democratic Party. And then there are extensions related to gender ownership. In fact, and I think I have ads related to this, talking about what is it like to run as a woman, to be a woman candidate. So I think, let me see if I can find that ad describing the running as a woman. Da, 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 da. It should be here. Attacking proposition. Do we really not have running as a woman? That hurts if we don't have it anymore. The Ford campaigns, running as a woman, issue ads. Let's see. Do we really not have the ads for running as a woman? I am hurt. There we go. I was like panicking because I know I had it. All right. Okay. So there's another chat. So Nick just asked, couldn't you also do Bush and terrorism too? Yeah. I mean, but isn't terrorism still, well, fighting against terrorism still a facet of the Democratic Party? I'm asking y'all. Are we still worried about ISIS? Well, I found the ads. So the first ad I'm going to show is a Hillary Clinton ad back when she was running for Senate. So
It's 3 a.m. and your children are safe and asleep. But there's a phone in the White House and it's ringing. Something's happening in the world. Your vote will decide who answers that call. Whether it's someone who already knows the world's leaders, knows the military, someone tested and ready to lead in a dangerous world. It's 3 a.m. and your children are safe and asleep. Who do you want answering the phone?
So
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
So no, excuse me, wasn't for the Senate. This was for the president back in 2008. Wow. So there was that ad, her ad, and then I have an Elizabeth Warren ad, and I believe this is when she was running for the Senate.
Our kids owe $1 trillion in student loan debt. That's more than all the credit card debt in America combined. Our kids are crushed by debt, and they didn't go on a shopping spree. They got an education. America ought to be investing in education and building a future for our kids. But Washington's giving billions to big oil and tax breaks to millionaires. I'm Elizabeth Warren. I approve this message because Washington needs to get its priorities straight.
All right, so what did you think of the two women ads? While I pull back up the lecture. Could you identify how they were running as women? So for what's
I
my
think
system?
I think they were basing it like off of a woman's supposed natural caring instinct.
I was going to say for
At
Clinton's
least that's
ad.
what it came across as to me.
Yeah, for Clinton's ad, showing the baby sleeping and the mother like checking in on the children while it's like, who is going to answer that phone call 3 a.m. Portrayed, actually, yeah, that's one of the few times we see Hillary Clinton portrayed as like more so of a guardian slash motherly figure. I'm already up checking on the children, so I can also handle anything that happens in the middle of the night. What about Warren's ad? Well, what about the education in debt, Nick? Are you saying that like by Warren talking about the debt that she is showing like concern as a mother? It's so weird. Like I don't want to be putting words in your mouth.
No, what I was gonna say is like how she's talking about, she kind of went the same route with as Hillary with like, the students, kids, and how it's not their fault because we're in debt, with the student loans and all that. So it went the caring route too, I feel like.
So caring equals femininity. Women. Gosh, I can't say femininity. That F word. Feminine. Yeah. Is that what y'all are saying? Femininity.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There was a paper that I assigned in 279 that talks about the stereotypes as while running as a woman for office. If I'll find it, I can post it. But like, there's research being done about this that talks about the potential of a glass ceiling that exists, and that the higher you go up as a woman, the more discrimination that you'll face because you are a woman. So to get into our next ad, so I have another political ad to show and share that will lead into our next slide. It would be nice if computer would respond to me. There we go. Where is the next ad? Nope, 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 nope. Wish I knew what that damn ad was. Don't you hate when you have like so many tabs open and you can't find what you need to find? To struggle. All right, I have found it. Our next ad. Did you find that to be pretty accurate?
Yes.
Accurate and fringy.
Accurate in what?
Fringy.
Fringy? What do you mean by fringy?
Cringy.
Oh, cringy, cringy. How is it cringy?
Yeah. I don't know. It points out like all the stereotypical stuff of a presidential campaign ad. And they're all the same.
I mean, like you have to talk about like the threats that loom. Nick did bring up a good point. It appeared that the bad person that like killed the other person was black. That the assailant, I think the one that was taking the woman's purse, that was a black person, which was like, wow. So even that, the accuracy of it.
Just adding a dog
And it
whistle.
also showed
a
guns
campaign
were in a
ad.
white place.
What did you say? And you and Max were talking at the same time.
I said nothing like adding some dog whistles to campaign ads.
Dog whistles are great. I mean, well, I enjoy analyzing dog whistles. They're problematic, but boy, when you catch it. I didn't realize thunderstorms were bad. Let's see, was there anything else? So the reason why I showed this video before talking about the strategies, because this video essentially hits on all the key points that a great ad should have. So of course, this ad would only be aired to people who you think are are important to determining the outcome of the race. And of course, this ad would air during programs that would be seen by people. So I don't know when would the ad be aired now because we're all home. But back in the day, well, back when there are things to do, like Bloomberg's ad and even Trump's ad airing during the Super Bowl, that was critical. So other times you would air it during sports finals, sport championship games. I don't know like what's popular and being watched right now. You know, Netflix really doesn't do ads unless it's for their own stuff. Disney doesn't do that, period. I'd be curious to see like when and how we'll see TV ads since more and more people are choosing to watch online streaming ads. Let's see. You can also ride the wave by connecting ads to issues or even events in the headlines, as we saw with the two ads I showed today, still talking about the coronavirus. You can also take advantage of issue ownership. I don't know who is going to own the coronavirus or if anyone wants to own it. Should anyone own the coronavirus? Either party? Or is this just going to be a debate as to who has the better contingency planning?
Let Bill Gates do it.
Let Bill Gates do it. Bill Gates wants to give us the chip. Don't you know if you're a Christian, that's the mark of the beast, and I for one would like to go to heaven. Y'all ain't giving me no chip. Mm-mm. So do we have anyone else besides Bill Gates?
Bill Gates was part of the coronavirus.
You know, he was out here killing people in India and in Africa allegedly with his early rounds of tetanus vaccines. Allegedly.
He predicted about. He talked about the corona.
Zoom won't let people talk at the same time, y'all. What happened?
Bill Gates made a TED talk about coronavirus.
So you believe Bill Gates he was the one that released it out in the world? He just said, "Nyah, nyah, nyah, nyah," with his evil hands together. Maybe. But I don't want him to be the person involved in it. But anyways, moving onwards, you can also use wedge appeals. All wedge appeals are making appeals about certain issues that, regardless of party ID, are still responsive. So previous wedge issues were like the civil rights movement. More recently, for a while, gay marriage was considered a wedge appeal. That you would have people in both the Democratic Party and in the Republican Party, but the goal would be trying to remove conservative supporters of the Democratic Party into the Republican Party based on your stance on gay marriage or issues that are cross-cutting. And then you could also go negative to generate media coverage and be credible to voters. And then when you are attacked, you launch a counterattack. So it could also be that Trump's attack ad on Biden could be in response to all of those super PAC ads I've been showing you all attacking him. Because the Democratic super PACs have been, dragging Trump for filth now for going on, 2.5 weeks? So, oh wait, so we got negative ads. So yeah, that means I got even more ads. So the first things first, negativity is a hallmark of political ads. Oh, I just love negative ads. Negative ads highlight character flaws. They highlight inadequate performance or inexperience. They highlight inconsistencies in rhetoric and actions. They highlight guilt by association or proximity to a certain scandal. Third party ads. So these are the ads that are aired. Why are they cutting grass so loudly? Anyways, they are aired by interest groups, PACs, and super PACs. Their ads are far more negative and far more controversial. And then the cool part about these third party ads is the candidates cannot be held accountable for their content. These are in third party ads. Any ad that's like aired by a group, even if they are like airing that ad on behalf of a candidate they support, the candidate themselves cannot be held responsible. So for that Win the West ad and for the Priorities USA ad, Joe Biden cannot be held responsible. So let's see. I have to show an example of flaws or highlighting character flaws. I have an ad from Steve Lonegan back when he was running for president. Let's see if I can find it properly. Is this the right one? Oh no, this is irritating. I hate Zoom. I also tried to do Google Hangouts today and I wasn't fond of it. Did you all have a favorite ad? Negative ad?
I mean, I saw that ad, when it aired originally, and I thought it was so mean.
Why did you think it was mean? You didn't think it was like cross-cutting, edgy?
I mean, it's interesting for sure, but like, I just feel like if you're running for political office and then 4 of your siblings do an ad for your opponent. I mean, Thanksgiving, I'm sure, is interesting later.
I mean, what if Paul is the black sheep? Perhaps there's a good reason why Paul is the black sheep. I mean, to have that many siblings say no, we don't support your candidacy.
Yeah.
So it does kind of make you wonder what he did to get that many of his family members to turn on him.
True. I want to say he did not win. That Paul was not elected. So let's see. Oh yes,
Did
now
you
finally, huh?
Did you watch Brian Kemp's ad for Georgia governor?
Are you talking about the one where he says he loves guns?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be showing that in Voters and Elections. Shameless plug. Yeah. So the ad that Danny is talking about, he's talking. So there's 2 of them. There's one where it's like he's shooting like cans, like he pulls up says "I love guns." And he's like shooting at cans in his backyard. And then there's the other one where it's like likened to a girl bringing home a boy, and he's talking about like he'll shoot the boy or some sort like that. You're talking about both of those ads, right?
Wait, no, I'm talking about the one where he talks about just like all of the random crap he's gonna do with the explosion.
Oh, so there are a whole bunch
That's
of
the greatest political ad of all time.
okay, so voters and elections. Yeah, I have a lot of Brian Kemp ads because he was wild.
He
But
is
now
wild.
he is
He doesn't know
wild.
what's going
So
on.
so now we're going to get into talking about like presidential ads. And so leading into that, I think I talked about it last week about the Dwight Eisenhower ads, I Like Ike. And so I wanted to actually show you all the I Like Ike ad because that's the first presidential ad we've seen in history. And I actually today found a colorized version of it. So also was going to share that too. As I said before, Dwight Eisenhower's ad is a Disney production, not by Walt, but his brother Roy. It's still a Disney, so.
Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We don't want John
or Dean
or Harry, let's do that big job right. Just get in step with the guy that's hep, get in step with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We got to get where we are going, travel day and night for president. Let Adelaide go the other way, we'll all go with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington, we'll take Ike to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
So doesn't it make you feel all good and fuzzy? And then for one time, for the people that wanted to see it in color.
Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president, Ike for president. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for
That's supposed to be.
Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We don't want John
or Dean
or Harry, let's do that big job right. Just get in step with the guy that's hep, get in step with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington. We got to get where we are going, travel day and night for president. Let Adelaide go the other way, we'll all go with Ike. You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike for president. Hang out the banner, beat the drum, we'll take Ike to Washington, we'll take Ike to Washington.
Now is the time for all good Americans to come to the aid of their country.
So, what did you think of the first presidential ad? Did you feel the warm fuzzies? I felt warm and fuzzy. Like, maybe I should vote for Dwight Eisenhower. Will I get like a dancing elephant? And now, not attack ads, presidential ads look nothing like that anymore. So, of course, like now the slide really doesn't even matter because we've bypassed the bulk of all of this. But what we're supposed to be going through right now, of course, primaries are just statewide elections that give voters the opportunity to pick the party's presidential nominee. Caucuses, on the other hand, there are those long-standing meetings where you go in as a supporter for a specific candidate and you have to convince all the other people that are also attending the caucus to support your candidate. And then they also choose delegates to the nominating convention. And then finally, all delegates are just members of political parties who attend the nominating convention and they formally cast a vote for the candidate. And so before primaries and caucuses, let's see.
Are we
supposed to be looking at notes right now?
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. I hate Zoom. It's not a class day if I don't say I hate Zoom at least once. Can we see the lecture now?
Yep.
All right, cool. So yeah, primaries and caucuses, boom, there. All right. So what we've seen now since 2008 that I can remember is now we have like this whole pre-primary season before the actual debates, not the actual debates, the actual primary season starts. We've all lived through it, all of those all those debates in September, October, November, December, and January. These have become far more common and more important. The ways in which the news media and polls impact the pre-primaries, it challenges ultimately the role parties have in selecting candidates. And ultimately, a candidate is most likely to survive the pre-primary season if they attract and maintain news attention, if they maintain their solid poll numbers, if they perform well in the debates, and ultimately they have a coherent message that captivates activist voters. And then the other part is just ultimately longevity. If they can raise the money and just stay there the longest. Or if there's not a pandemic. Pandemics can affect who goes where. So why should we have cared about Iowa and the New Hampshire primary? It's because they're the first two that happens. The victorious candidate, usually in Iowa and New Hampshire, they're portrayed as popular, exciting, confident, and in control. If I recall correctly, they said Pete Buttigieg won Iowa and Bernie won New Hampshire?
Yeah.
But yet neither are there. So it doesn't, while it matters for the sake of the primary season, who wins those first two contests, it doesn't necessarily translate into actually securing the nomination. Because there have actually been times where people have won the Iowa caucus or the New Hampshire primary and then still did not turn into the nominee. And so there's actually been discussions, especially within the Democratic Party, whether or not they should rotate which states are actually the first to have their primaries. It's we should care because it gives for the rest of the nation indications of which candidates we should be paying attention to, especially for the media. But in terms of actual longevity and trajectory, it doesn't mean that much.
Can you go back 2 slides? I just need to finish one sentence. Thank you. But
no problem. This one or
go forward one.
This one?
Thank you. Yes.
No
awesome.
problem.
Got it. Cool. I'm good. Thank you.
So what happens during the rest of the primary season? So you could win Iowa and then lose New Hampshire and then you're out the game. I think that's what happened to Pete, right? Pete left after the New Hampshire primary, I want to say.
He dropped out.
He was gone before Super Tuesday. Yeah, he was gone before Super Tuesday. Was he? I'm going to presume he was gone before Super Tuesday. Because Super Tuesday... Yeah, no, I don't know. February is such a blur. It's like pre-coronavirus and then coronavirus. Anyways, what happens after New Hampshire? There's a race for delegates in the rest of the contest, in particular Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday is considered make or break for candidates if the pool is still large, as we saw in the Democratic Party. Let's see. Party leaders during this time are considered to be key opinion leaders who influence the party's base to align with candidates they believe can win the election. And then there are also candidates who will try to derail winners of early contests. So actually, I have this video from a news clip back in 2000, so 20 years ago, where son Bush, George W. Bush, launched an underground campaign alleging that John McCain cheated on his wife and had a black baby. So it's what? Not John McCain. Yeah, John McCain was out here, slinging it around, allegedly. So we'll watch that. New save, new screen. Campaign to discuss the fact that John McCain allegedly had a illegitimate black child. So what that tactic is called, it's called a whisper campaign. And all whispering campaigns are just like, yeah, we can see this. Y'all can see the slides again, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So all that is, it's just a method of persuasion in which damaging rumors are spread about the target, while the source of the rumors seek to avoid being detected while spreading them. So historically, this has happened. Let's see. The most notable one started back in 1884 with President Grover Cleveland, when there were Republicans that were claiming that Cleveland had an illegitimate child. This also happened again during FDR's presidency. The whisper campaigns were about his rumored support for civil rights and other topics. And then for John McCain's in particular, so no, John McCain does not have a black baby. This is actually based on the fact that he has an adopted daughter from Bangladesh that's really dark skinned. And so that's where that came from. They just said, when did John McCain get this black baby? And it's like, did he cheat on his wife? It's, no, that was a legal adoption. The baby's not black. The baby's Asian. She just looks black because she has dark skin. So wild, right? There was a attempted short-lived whisper campaign in 2016 about Bill Clinton, and that was short-lived, perpetuated by Alex Jones. I remember showing this in 2016 when I was still at OSU, that allegedly Bill Clinton has a black illegitimate child. When he was governor of Arkansas, he was cheating on Hillary back then and had relations with a black drug addict, allegedly. The drug addict got pregnant, had the baby, and like you can Google it. That this child looks just like Bill. Like if we were watching Maury, I don't know, Maury, he could be the father. But that was a short-lived whisper campaign as well. And of course, the purpose of these are just to derail the early contest winners. It didn't work in 2000. It did work in 2000 because, of course, Bush secured the Republican nomination. So it'd be nice if this actually happens come June and July, that we actually get to go to convention time. Convention time, if you can't see it, like you can move your window. I'd spent like 6 hours like last year trying to figure out how to make that happen, to turn that from adventure time to convention time. Was really proud of myself. Anyways, as the parties begin to dominate, power diffused to elite party members. As a result, contested, brokered, multi-ballot conventions were the norm. So if you participated in my convention, and remember we had to go through multiple rounds of ballots and voting to figure out who were the finalists who was going to be nominated for president, then who were the finalists, and then we had a runoff for president, and then we tried to do the same thing again for the VP. That takes time. And everybody doesn't have time to participate in multi-brokered voting at the convention. And so what ended up happening is that we saw changes take place in the 20th century. Let's see, progressives began to initiate primaries to give voters more opportunity to actually select the nominees. In particular, back in the 60s, JFK entered the primaries to convince party leaders back then that voters would actually support him despite the fact that he was Catholic. So back in the 60s, it was a huge deal that JFK had secured the nomination and ultimately became president, because there were discussions as to whether or not the country was ready for a Catholic president. Now, of course, here we are like reading and learning about this information later, and we're just like, really? Really? I didn't realize Catholicism was so controversial that everyone was wondering if it was going to happen. Then later in 1968, police violence made outside the DNC made the proceedings seem shady and undemocratic. So what happened during '68? There was still anti-Vietnam protests, and then there were still residuals of civil rights protesting, in particular with Fannie Lou Hamer and the rest of SNCC boycotting or trying to get access to the DNC, because at the time the Mississippi Democratic delegation did not want to integrate or include the black delegates, include the black delegates in the larger Mississippi delegation as a whole. And then, of course, the McGovern-Fraser Commission called for primaries, and then state laws passed laws making the changes primary, not making them primary, making the changes binding, allowing for primaries to exist as a way to identify that state's delegates to the convention and then who those delegates were going to support. And so, what about these delegates? All these delegates do is just connect the parties to the Democratic outcomes in the nomination contest. All a candidate needs is just the bare majority of delegates to win the party's nomination. And so, especially for the Democrats, there was like this short lived discussion before Bernie quit whether or not there was going to be a candidate that would have secured majority of the delegate votes to secure the party nomination. Because in cases where there is not one candidate that has a majority, we have to go through that brokered voting system. And for the Democratic Party, there was discussion as to what, like, if it had to go to the convention, that it actually would have caused the party to fall apart. And so, luckily, it seems we don't even have to worry about superdelegates or anything for the Democratic Party. But in instances where we do, all superdelegates we probably won't have to worry about this again until 2024. They're just elite party members that are not bound by the outcome of their state's primary elections, primary results, or their caucus results. These are the VIPs of the political parties, your high-ranking officials, your whips, and your speakers of the House, other bigwigs. They're VIPs and they have X amount of votes, and the whole purpose would be at the conventions to court and secure their support. And so what happens with the experience? If you went to my convention, you know what it's like. Conventions, they ratify the choices, promote the tickets. There are bills talking about the creation of 9 Dakotas. There was a bill talking about giving dogs the right to vote. There was, what was the other weird thing?
There was one massive Dakota that was a thing.
Massive, oh yeah, to consolidate into 1 Dakota. It was weird. They had consolidated legalization of marijuana and the freeing of prisoners who were in jail for drug charges. Yeah, like I thought that was weird.
And there was the one where giving the convicted felons their right to vote back.
And it was also like lumped in with reparations too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really weird, because I remember speaking out against it. Like, you just can't tie reparations with prisoners. Like, that's not right. Let's see. I think did Nick say something via chat? Oh yeah. He brought it up. He said white supremacy, the white supremacy one. Yeah, that was gonna.
That was white supremacy. I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was a white supremacy one because there was a person who left, and I think that person's in our class, so we're not going to go any further about that. But yeah, there was a white supremacy one saying we were going to ban extremist language from the alt-right. It was like alt-right and white supremacy, and then the person got upset and then left the convention. Yeah. So yeah.
Crazy, she's a band director.
It was a band director. That was the one that got upset and left?
Yeah, that was the lady that was fine.
It was the head of the marching band.
Wait, she left because what? Wait, so she left because we said yes or because it was passed?
I don't really remember why she left. I just know she started crying, and I was like, what's she crying for?
No, she started crying.
I thought it was because somebody brought up not only if we're going to ratify alt-right, but we had to ratify alt-left at the same time.
Yeah,
that's what one of our classmates said.
I remember that.
That part I remember. I didn't know she got up and left. I didn't realize somebody left, but I missed quite a bit during that convention.
Yeah, there was all kind of shenanigans happening. It was crazy. I didn't know, like, the band director up and left. I remember there
I
was
don't
also
know if she up and left, but I know that's the one that started it off about the alt-right one. She was the band director. She started crying.
because I know there was also hoopla during the passage of what the ban on assault weapons. That was after the kid from he's not a kid, but the one
Parkland,
from
the
Stonebridge.
student from Parkland, right? Wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Does he go to OU, or is he just somebody we invited?
he's someone that's been invited and
He
has
was
been
somebody.
and
He
offered
was a
admission.
prospect student, wasn't he?
Hmm?
I think he was a prospect student.
Yeah, I know. We've offered him admission. I don't know if he's coming or not. His brother goes here already, though. I don't know who his brother is, but
I thought the problem with
the death threats
that
come out of. That was
was
interesting.
that they.
just the weird glitch.
I thought the problem with that debate was that they didn't allow it up for debate at all.
Mm. That
Because
was
they
a
did. We just cleared that through media.
Right.
Well,
And
that's
then
like
I heard that the one kid that voted, the one guy that stood up and made it, he got death threats on his social media, but I've never confirmed it.
what?
I've never, yeah, the kid that stood up and made the anti-assault weapon ban, like people were sending him death threats on his social medias after the convention.
Y'all are like this is.
I don't think it was death threats, but I know he got some serious backlash for it, but I don't think it was quite death threats.
That's just the latest thing I heard. Like I said, I haven't been able to confirm any of it because we kind of had
That's
spring break and then Corona.
I keep hearing rumors that like conservative students have to stay closeted, but death threats? It's not even a real convention. This is not even real. It is not that serious. I am flabbergasted. I don't. But so the reasoning.
Politics is so divided.
But it doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be. Like this should all just be an engaging, informative exercise. Oh my god. So the reason why the student had the stand, like just the stage, and then it went forward was something unfortunately we planned. So myself, Bizer, and Nestor, in talking with Rock Jones because Rock Jones invited him out. So it was like his special highlight there, and it didn't seem appropriate to try and debate that after that student gave his experience because we had heard that there were other instances where that happened where students that survived these school shootings to talk and then a debate happens and then the students will say well does that mean my experience is not valid or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I understand the skip.
So but it would have been nice if we actually did have a debate, but I think the only way we would have been able to have the debate if the student ultimately did not come. Because
Everybody's so sensitive.
it was expensive. Yeah, it was expensive. Yeah.
I said sensitive.
Yeah. So that's why. But I didn't know people were leaving and crying and that was like, that was on the other side of Great Chapel. I had no idea that was going on. So let us see. It's 4 o'clock. But luckily, we're still where we're supposed to be. The media effects section is long, and we still have, I think, a couple more ads to show, but they're great ads, really great ads. So we'll continue onward on Thursday. For the late people, check your grades. I think I only have like a couple more Twitter threads that I need to grade. If you find yourself, I was talking about that at the beginning of class. If you find yourself in the A or B range, you should probably take this class for the grade. Take the grade. If you find yourself in the C or D realm, strongly encourage you to think about your options and instead take the class credit, no credit. And then if you have an F, I don't know what to tell you. Come hat in hand, we need to have a conversation, figure some things out. So at least we can get you up to the D range.
So where are the Twitter thread grades at on Blackboard? Are they just on the posts that we made?
They would be when you pull them up on your Blackboard, they should appear as you did it or you did not do it. But those are the things that are left that I have to do, just the Twitter threads. And so I'm just looking for, did you turn it in? Did you turn it in on time? Are you just not tweeting about Cardi B? Is it not just BS?
Because all I found was just like the Twitter thread discussion board, so I haven't found an actual grade thing for it, but I might just be missing it.
So that's what, yeah, but that's what I'm working on right now, and I haven't, like, it's weird, like
Gotcha.
you have to enter the grades, and then you have to click post. I hate Blackboard. Like, this just, and then like there are 3 or 4 dates. I've had a couple of students email me that there are a couple of dates that don't appear in the grade book that I have to go back in and make sure that they appear in the grade book.
Okay.
So, but beyond that, you know deep down inside if you've been trying to keep up and engage and stuff. For participation in my convention, I think I mentioned this before, it's going to appear as 2 points added to your final grade. So if you have an 88 and you participated in my convention, you're going to get those 2 points that'll push you up to a 90.
Oh, I see them now. I see the Twitter threads. We're good.
Yeah, there are a couple dates that are missing that I have to go in and manually add. That's what that's going to look like.
I have 6 because the one on 324 I posted late and then I reposted it to
Okay.
331. Yeah.
Okay. So get those in. If you have any questions, send an email. Of course, I'll post this. I know I'm a little behind, but no, actually, I'm not behind on media and politics posts. But of course, if you tell your friends to watch it, they won't get to see the videos because YouTube doesn't play that.
Oh, it won't show them through the posted Zoom stream?
No, because I have to cut those because that's copywritten material.
Yeah, and you don't want to get copy struck. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
YouTube's very picky about that.
Tell your friends, yeah, they get the information, but
You could link it in the description. You could link the YouTube ads in the description.